Whenever you go on YouTube and type in used game DRM, you will get a ton of results. A lot of them have to do with Microsoft's Xbox One plans in 2013 before they were changed due to major backlash, as Microsoft wanted to restrict the sales of used games. However, this was only inevitable as similar things have actually been happening for a while, and this was only bound to happen on consoles, where used games are king. You see, this has been going on for nearly 11 years, and as the 11th anniversary of the service that helped start all of this stuff draws near, let's take a look at how it happened, and how this service became so big. In 2003, Valve was faced with a major problem. People were pirating their major game, Half-Life. While Half-Life was a major sales success, it also happened to use the most common DRM at the time, the CD key and disk check protection. Many older games would allow you to enter in your CD key when you installed the game, with the only requirement from then on being you leave your original disk in the drive. While this wasn't too intrusive, it was far from the most effective form, as some developers went to extremes to keep their games from being pirated, such as Star Force. While online games had additional protection measures in the form of checking the keys online whenever you join a server to verify you're the only one playing online with that key, there were ways around this, such as cracked servers, private servers, or with some less secure games, even keygens. So after this, Valve decided to take action. Using a page from the Microsoft Playbook, after Microsoft attempted to solve the Windows XP and Office XP piracy problem by pissing everybody off with the now infamous activation system, then later Windows Genuine Advantage, Valve decided to try the exact same thing but go even further. Valve created, at the time, what was the first DRM client. Now, what is a DRM client? It's a class of program that you have to run before you launch the game that uses online connections to verify you own the game. And many of these programs were created for the sole purpose of checking to be sure you actually own the game. And Steam is a pretty good example. Now, sure, you can say many of them have offline modes, but all of them have one thing in common. You have to go online to activate the game before you can play it, mostly with Valve servers. And keep in mind, activation DRMs are pretty controversial, especially with the Secure ROM saga that broke out in 2007. And not only do you have to activate it, but with these DRM clients, they will forget the offline login information a lot, meaning you have to find internet again just to log in and play that game you purchased from Walmart. One of the major Steam things did to PC gaming, however, was destroy any chance you have at reselling, sharing, or letting your friends borrow or keep your PC games. How, you may ask? Well, you see, with previous DRM or copy protection systems, all you had to have was your disk in the tray and your CD key. Unless you got blacklisted from many servers, like let's just say a bunch of Punkbuster servers banned you with PB bans, you could freely borrow your friend's copy of Half-Life, Quake 3, Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, Dark Forces, or whatever. Not anymore, because with Steam, you have to activate your CD key with Valve. And by activating it, I mean punching in the CD key and then having your game registered to your account, making the key a one-time use code, kind of like with iTunes and iTunes cards or Xbox Live and Xbox Live cards, instead of, say, a traditional CD key, and rendering the disc that came in the box of your game a useless piece of plastic that is only good for installing the game and Steam and then begging you to put the key in. When this came out, it also had no phone activation, and keep in mind when Steam was introduced, many people still had slow DSL or even dial-up, and at least one 2003 to 2004 era game had the netcode optimized for dial-up. Now, to further rub salt into the wound, remember when I mentioned how Half-Life used an old style of DRM? Well, in 2004, Valve pulled the old Half-Life master servers, forcing anybody who wanted to play online, especially hot games that were big at the time, such as Counter-Strike or Team Fortress Classic, to upgrade to the Steam version. This caused backlash, as Steam was very buggy, really basic, and had many issues and still does today. And many of these issues vary from connecting to Steam to preparing to launch a game to Steam just locking up and crashing and eating up a lot of resources. And especially earlier on, it was notorious for being a resource hog. And thanks to this Steam use game DRM, it's going to be very hard to legally get some games on Steam in the future, and even now. For example, there are already a bunch of well-known delisted Steam games from Prey to Activision's Marvel games to Outrun 2, and the list keeps getting bigger and bigger. The only way to play these games now on the PC is to either find a copy of the Steam version that has not been activated and activate it, to get a retail copy of the non-Steam version, or to pirate it. And let's not forget there are other issues that have popped up too, such as forced updates or seemingly forced updates that keep you from playing your game, even if it's a single player game, unless you update, which not only can incur huge bandwidth costs, but can also keep people from playing older versions of games such as Vanilla Team Fortress 2, pre-Orange Box or 64-bit Half-Life 2, Plants vs. Zombies with Michael Jackson still in the game, and of course pre-Steam versions of games such as BioShock 2, which got moved over to Steamworks, making the game even buggier. Now, has there been any gamer backlash over this? Initially, there was. You can go to older Amazon reviews for earlier non-Valve Steam-based games, and even some newer non-Valve Steam-based games, and find tons of complaints about Steam, the DRM itself, and how it has issues. From Empire Total War to Fear 2 to Dawn of War 2, and even some of the negative reviews on the earlier Half-Life 2 pages will talk about issues, from the use game DRM to activation woes. At the same time, however, the fact that nobody raised their voice to the elephant in the room with the voice that mattered the most, the wallet, the fact that new users to Steam don't seem to care that they are only getting licenses and they don't read the law and license agreements unless they are spoon-fed to them, and the fact that sales have caused people to overlook all this DRM stuff is why everything people complain about in gaming exists. Origin, you can thank Valve for that. The Xbox One DRM, you can thank Valve for that. Uplay, you can thank Valve for that. Games for Windows Live, you can thank Valve for that. Any DRM client in general, you can thank Valve for that. Retail PC gaming being reduced to nothing more than shells with fancy box art, discs, and keys you can enter in on Steam, thank Valve. And yet nobody is caring about what Valve does because they brought in a ton of people wanting free to play games and cheap games. They have killed off retail PC gaming and non Steam games in general. Sure, there are a few indie games that are still Steamless, but those are a minority compared to the great big Call of Duty that uses Steam, or the big Battlefield that uses Origin, and everything in between that uses Steam, Origin, or Uplay. You can even walk into your local Target, or Walmart, or Best Buy, and look at the back of many PC games if you do live in an area that still has retail PC gaming, which will have notices stamped about how you have to accept the SSA or Steam subscriber agreement to play the game. And guess what the Steam subscriber agreement says? It says you cannot sell your games. And thanks to this, to share your games, you need to use Steam's restricted game sharing implementation, Or do like what you had to do before that existed, where you give your username and your password to the friend you want to borrow that copy of Half-Life 2 to. And let's be honest, I hope people begin to notice this. I mean, let's be honest, especially with retail games. I was at a thrift store and I saw an old copy of Portal 2 for the PC lying next to the console games. I opened it up, I saw the Steam key, and written on the back of the box was the fact that you had to accept the Steam subscriber agreement. And all I could do was feel bad for the person that's inevitably going to buy it, knowing they're going to get screwed by Valve's DRM, which somehow people give free passes to in the end, while raising their voice at EA, at Ubisoft, at Microsoft. How is Valve any different? Because they offer sales? Because even then, their sales aren't even that good this year. And all in all I have to say is, if people really want to stand beside their ideals, they should, instead of just giving free passes to companies left and right. That is all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. And did I mention that now GameStop's PC section is literally just a list of games you can get Steam codes for at the cash register? I wish I was making this up, but really, that's what PC gaming has come to. So, good luck for all of you who don't have 30 to 40 megabit internet, especially those in America who are trapped with a 5 megabit DSL.